talk about how to properly plant a shade tree. Today we have a nuttall oak that's going to be planted, and first step with planting a tree is to select a really good tree. The better tree you select, the better off you're going to be in the long run. What we looked for was a tree with some height on it, but also we looked for what we call a central leader, which is one main trunk going up. We don't want one with multiple trunks splitting, except for maybe like river birch and crepe myrtles. But for a shade tree like maples and oaks, we want one central leader. It's going to allow the tree to be stronger later on as it grows and with winds and so forth in our area. So we selected one here with a straight trunk. The next thing we did is we made sure we selected a good site. You want to make sure when you plant a large tree like this that you're avoiding any power lines, not too close to a house or other structure, and also avoiding things like septic tank or underground electrical lines or water lines. To get started with planting our shade tree, the first thing we do is dig the hole. And when you dig a hole, it seems like it's a simple task, but you want to make sure that you take some time with this. This is going to help give enough room for the roots to expand and grow into the existing soil, so your tree will last a long time. You want to plant it just slightly above. You don't want to plant too deep. That's usually the first mistake everybody makes, is they dig a really big hole and they plant it too deep. And what's going to happen is it's going to drown the tree because it's too deep, and also it's going to damage the trunk and cause problems later. So you want the depth of your hole just slightly less than what the depth of the root ball is, and then you want it twice as wide. You want to give that space so those roots can start growing into that soil that you've broken up, taking it out of the hole. The other thing you want to do, a lot of times people skip this step, is you want to break up the roots. In this case, this is a good example where these roots are compacted together and they're growing in a circle based on the container it was in. So a lot of people barely scratch the surface, but you can do more than that. You're not going to harm the tree by taking a knife, taking your shovel, and actually breaking this up some and really loosen it up, and that's going to encourage those roots to grow outward. If you skip this step, the only thing those roots will do is keep growing in a circle, and they'll never grow beyond the planting hole. So you do want to make sure that you break up those roots really well to encourage them to grow out. Okay, we have our tree planted, and what we did was we used the existing soil. Often that's a common question is, can I add potting soil or can I add some better soil because my soil's not that great? It's really better you stick with your existing soil when you're filling in that planting hole. The reason for that is you want those roots to grow beyond that planting hole into the rest of the existing soil that's there. So you want to start with that so it's the same soil as it grows beyond that planting hole. Also, we did not add any fertilizer. Sometimes people want to add fertilizer in the planting hole, but that's going to end up touching your roots and possibly burning them. So you want to avoid adding any fertilizer into the planting hole. Now that we're done, just to finish up, what we would do is add some mulch. Mulch is going to keep the weeds down. It's going to conserve some moisture. About a 3-inch layer, and you want to make sure you don't pile it up against the trunk. Instead, leave a little space between the trunk at the base and the mulch, because piling it up will encourage water to remain there, encourage rotting, and also pest problems later on. We'll also want to make sure we water this tree, especially the first year, to get it established. So we want to make sure we give it some water as it's needed, as we lack any rain or we go through a dry spell. Make sure you water that, and then after the first year you can start backing off and only watering during dry periods or drought. And the last thing people will check on is ask about staking. This one had a stake that we took out. It's a pretty straight and strong tree, so unless we see a need for it, we probably wouldn't stake it. But if you do feel like you need to stake a tree that's a little weak, then make sure your stake that you don't tie it too tightly around the trunk, because it will cut into the bark and damage it down the road. And also with your stake, take it out after the first year or so that tree will go ahead and adjust without the stake. We don't want to leave the stake in permanently. And that's all we have for planting a tree. And if you want more gardening information, you can contact the Wayne County Cooperative Extension Office at 919-731-1520.